In the year 2020, I started a podcast about movies. Some episodes occasionally focused on other media as well. As I dealt with threatening interdimensional beings, I eventually met my other self from another universe where all the stuff I talked about got delayed. As it turns out, the stories as me and my guests described them were presented very differently in that other universe. So I continued podcasting these recaps, which apparently sound like improvised reviews, to entertain listeners of that other universe while they waited for the new release dates. Some episodes even focused on content of years past that did not come out in that other universe for whatever reason. The year is 2022. The podcast is now bi-weekly, unless stated otherwise. My name is Shinder, and you're listening to Delayed Replay. Hello, listeners. Welcome to another episode of Delayed Replay, that podcast where we recap and review movies that got delayed or canceled in that other universe but came out in our universe. I'm your host, as always, Shinder, and joining me, you may have heard him on the Minecraft movie episode several months ago. It is Callum Hogan. How's it going?
It's going well. I'm excited to once again another well, no, that was live action, but this time it's an animated film, but both with animated casts, I guess.
Yeah, like there's definitely like some animated bits in see what I did there, with Minecraft movie, but yeah, this time around we're talking about Spooky Jack, DreamWorks animated movie, which in that other universe was supposed to come out like a year ago, but got canceled and replaced by The Bad Guys, which then got pushed to April of this year. But in our universe, The Bad Guys came out a year ago, and then Puss in Boots: The Last Wish came out in April of this year. But I'm waiting until like early November to put out an episode on that. And then Spooky Jack came out September, as of when we're recording this. So like right off the bat, kicking off the spooky season for us. And just a quick thing, depending on how you look at it, this is like the 100th episode of Delayed Replay. Like I know the Star Wars Celebration episode is split into two parts on audio feeds, but it's one thing on YouTube. I look at it as one thing, so I guess to me, like, this is the 100th episode, and like I said, from here on out, it's weekly episodes through the end of the year to celebrate that.
Hell yeah. Congratulations on 100 episodes.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, you don't think about these things of, like, yeah, this is gonna go beyond 100 episodes, or at least I don't. I just like kind of see how long it's gonna go and just see what happens. But just to start, what are your overall experiences with DreamWorks movies, Callum?
Oh, this is hard because like it's so sad looking at not getting into this film, of course. DreamWorks from like the second half of the 2010s with your Trolls and your Boss Babies and your Croods. Yeah. I never saw the Bad Guys, but I heard really good things about it. So maybe they turned a new leaf. But I have a lot of love for DreamWorks because while Pixar would release one film a year or maybe one every 2 years, I think 2009 maybe being the exception. I can't remember. But DreamWorks released a lot of films when I was growing up, and I loved them. Like the Madagascar series, the movie, of course.
Yeah, and
then a genuinely good franchise, which is Shrek, apart from the third film, which we don't talk about. But
I actually genuinely love the third film.
See, I love the fourth one. I think the fourth one is better than the first. I really like Shrek Forever After. And there's like my favorite, not my favorite DreamWorks film, but the one I think gets underrated the most, which is Over the Hedge, because I love Over the Hedge so much. So overall, with DreamWorks, I'm quite a big fan of them. Not so much their current work, but I think their stories dealing with like imposter syndrome and stuff, like Kung Fu Panda, can be really powerful, despite being kid films.
Definitely. Like, I enjoyed all the Shrek movies, and Kung Fu Panda was such a strong trilogy. Really curious to see what they do with the next one, and I think there might be like an animated series or two I may need to catch up on. But yeah, like DreamWorks has become, like you said, it rivals Pixar and it relies a lot on 3D animation, sometimes 2D with their TV stuff, but by and large, they haven't had as many 2D movies. Like, it's mainly, and Disney has fallen into that as well, pretty much just putting out 3D animated movies after a certain point. So it's interesting. I think some of the animation looks really good for some of these DreamWorks movies, and yeah, it was definitely part of my childhood. I've probably talked about some of it before. I remember Shark Tale, like the DVD of that was like a huge thing, me and my cousins pretending to bet on the like seahorse racing thing is like so dumb. But yeah, it's definitely had a huge staying power in our childhoods, I think. Going into Spooky Jack, sometimes DreamWorks bases things on previously established like children's books or like maybe middle grade books, and sometimes they do like sequels to stuff they come up with or whatever, but this is like one of those originals types of things. So like, what'd you think of I don't know where you want to start. Do you want to start with like the animation style or the voice acting? Like, where do you want to begin?
Before we get to that, I think to specific point, this out of DreamWorks and catalog, this gives me the solutions to Rise of the Gods. Obviously, and bringing like folklore almost into their movie, because obviously in Rise of the Gods you have like Sandman, Jack Frost, and all this. And with these guys, you've got more spooky characters, like we'll see a leprechaun later. I quite like the animation style. Like, usually in animated films, they're all quite bright and colourful. And I kind of liked how this one was a little darker, there was a little more grey and to spooky atmosphere, because we don't really see a lot of animated horror films. Like, of course, Monster House, Coraline, Frankenweenie, I think, whatever that one was called.
Yeah.
But we don't really see a lot of them. So I like the different style rather than the usual bombastic, colourful nature of most animated films.
Yeah, it definitely conveys that spookier vibe. And I recently rewatched Coraline with my friend Haley, and it still holds up. And yeah, I also got like Rise of the Guardians vibes from this, and I believe that was also a DreamWorks movie. It came out like around a decade ago, so this is in a way sort of a continuation of that sort of idea, but leaning more heavily on the spooky creatures.
Yeah, I think that's why this is a really good concept, because you have pre-established characters that most people will know just from general life, like the Sandman in Rise of the Guardians, or Santa Claus, or like in this film Leprechaun and Bigfoot, and it's like it pre-establishes that connection with film goers, and it just makes it a whole easier experience to digest as a film, I guess.
It feels like a different spin on stuff we're familiar with. I kind of got Hoodwinked vibes. I don't know if you ever saw the 3D animated movie.
I love Hoodwinked so much. I genuinely I love Hoodwinked. It's so good.
Yeah, like that movie was like it was like Shrek, but without being Shrek, if that makes sense, and just like Patrick Warburton as the big bad wolf and showing like the alternate perspectives. It was like something that I kind of wondered about as a kid, like what about the wolf's side of the story? And they do that whole Rashomon thing with Hoodwinked, and it's just, yeah, it's a fun movie. Like, people should revisit it if they can. But yeah, I quite liked the mythical creatures in this. So I guess we should begin with like who our main characters are. So there are these three siblings, and they and their parents move into a new house, as you do. And like I'm trying to remember like the names of these siblings.
The sister was called Wendy, I believe.
Yeah, I remember now, because they do make that joke later on of like they wonder if there's a ghost, and she gets scared thinking there's a ghost, and one of the brothers is like, I guess this is like Casper meets Wendy, am I right? And that was such like a weird obscure reference to like a direct to video sequel or prequel or whatever that was, but yeah.
I mean, DreamWorks has always made weird pop culture. Madagascar 1 is literally full of them, but yeah. So you had Wendy, I think you had Ben was the older brother, and then the younger brother's name is escaping me.
Oh yeah, I remembered his name. His name was Mal. That stood out to me because it's like, wait, is that short for Malcolm? Like, he's literally the middle child, so he'd be like Malcolm in the middle, I guess. So, yeah, and also, like, end up having, like, this friend who's, like, she's kind of introverted, and she's, like, at the school, the older one's school, but she's also a neighbor. I think her name was, it was Tracy, I believe her name was. Yeah, and I don't remember the names of these voice actors. Like, they got some young talent for these kids in this movie, but whoever they are, they did a top-notch job and have a promising career ahead of each of them, all because this movie came out and launched their careers, you know?
Yeah, it's nice that, like, this, well, some of the mythical creatures had obviously some voices behind them, but it was nice that, like, there weren't, like, stunt castings of, like, really big name actors playing children. It was quite, like, all younger actors, and yeah, they all did a good job. They all sounded really convincing and had some good screams at one point. So yeah, it was the voice. There's no complaints about the voice acting from me.
They investigate this house because it looks kind of eerie, and they question their parents, why can't you have chosen a better house? And the parents are like, look, the rent here is cheap, there are a bunch of us, like, we have to make do with what we have. And this felt like such a modern type of problem where it's like people like kind of have to just settle for certain houses because of the rent price, you know? Like, what did you think of them addressing that?
I liked it. I mean, I thought we were gonna get the thing of we inherited this house from your dead grandma or something. But it was nice that no, it was pretty realistic. It was like, yeah, there's 5 of us. You know, we need like at least a 4-bedroom house because like it's like the kids and then 3-bedroom I guess because kids and parents. But like we need at least a 3-bedroom house. So like you know what you gonna do? It's 2022. It's a bad time. So I did like it. It was a nice little bit of realism to add to kids' films, and they didn't ham-fist it of like going to. We're not going to get a DreamWorks financial crisis movie. Even so, it was a nice little touch.
Yeah, financial crisis on Infinite Earths. That's a movie I want to see.
You just have like Zootopia, but instead of like systematic racism, it's just like the financial crisis.
Yeah, basically. One of these first nights, like the little girl, like Wendy is the first one who hears something, and like we said, they do the Casper reference, and but there's like a later night where the middle child, you know, Mal, he hears a noise like some creaking and stuff. Like, you know, they basically just go through each of the siblings on different nights until they're ultimately all convinced that there's something or multiple things in or around the house. They also get Ben, he meets Tracy at the school, and they do like the sort of meeting thing, like he and her sit at a cafeteria table, and it's like she's on her phone and doesn't really want to talk to him, but sort of gets interested when he says that he and his siblings have been hearing some weird stuff around the house. But what'd you think of her introduction?
I liked the way that it was just very much that, like, she blatantly didn't care about Ben. She was just very much, at least at the start, obviously, they become, like, close friends or whatever. But obviously, like, it's very much just like, nah, Tracy just wants to see some ghosts. Tracy is proper into the paranormal stuff. But, it's fair, ghosts are cool. Like, who wouldn't want to meet a ghost? Or, I guess, other mythical creatures. Some are weird, some of them are weird, like, which we'll get into, but, yeah, Tracy was a fun character. I liked how there was the scene later in the film when they get scared and all three of the siblings run away, and then Tracy tries to run into like the spooky room because Tracy wants to meet the thing, and they have to kind of drag her away from it. That was really fun. So yeah, I thought that was a fun character for the film.
Yeah, and she also talks about how she wants to put together like her own blog about spooky stuff. And I'm wondering, like, does this make it more timeless, or does it kind of date it to say, oh, like, there's a character who wants to make a blog, and it's like, who makes a blog these days type of thing?
I mean, I think it's kind of timeless because you can blog anywhere. Like, you could have a blog on Instagram where you just post a picture, blog called like Tracy's Terrors, and then the blog post is the caption for the Instagram post, or like, yeah, like, I mean, you can't really blog on TikTok unless I don't know. I don't use TikTok, but like, I think it's alright because obviously there's blog sites, but also you can blog on social media. You can make a video blog, a vlog, as the kids called. So, like, I don't think it's too bad. It was weird hearing the word blog in 2022, but the way I interpret it as, like, it's not too. It didn't annoy me too much.
Yeah, I was fine with it, I guess. Like, she does have a cell phone, so it's obviously not like the 1980s or whatever. Not that there would be blogs even back then, so I don't even know why I said 1980s, but like, I appreciate how the movie doesn't lean into social media as much as other movies do. Like, you don't get the annoying someone posts a video and you see all the views on YouTube or some YouTube knockoff like
don't give me flashbacks to Ralph Breaks the Internet, please. Please don't. That sequel was so bad.
I don't recall the social bits of Ralph Breaks the Internet, but I thought overall I enjoyed the movie, and me and my friend Nathan brought this up a while ago, like before I saw it, and I agree with him that it teaches a good message about how sometimes friends should like give each other a bit of room to like do their own thing respectively rather than be clingy, and it's something you don't see in a lot of these kids movies. Your mileage may vary, I guess.
Yeah, it was, but I very much agree. A lot of the current films, The Mitchells versus the Machines, which is very good, leans into social media and technology quite a lot. So it was kind of nice to see this be kind of a stripped down story that wasn't like, there were cell phones, but they weren't a pivotal plot point.
Yeah, I've been hearing about Mitchell versus the Machines every now and then for the past like couple months, and I've been meaning to watch it. So, I mean, that's on me. I really need to get on it.
The consensus I've heard, and from seeing it, I kind of agree, is it's the second best Sony Pictures film behind Spider-Verse. So obviously Spider-Verse on another level, but it's pretty good. I enjoyed it.
I've heard it has like, yeah, it's like from the same company, so similar animation. But yeah, I just need to get on that. I do like how the movie doesn't go out of its way to remind you of the present too much, because I feel like that's something that's great about spooky movies like Coraline or Monster House. Like something that I read or I guess heard on about Monster House was that supposedly it was intended to take place in the 80s or early 90s, hence like the arcade game, I guess. But that's something that never really registered to me as a kid, because it's like you can still go to like pizzerias that have like old arcade games, and to me Monster House felt like maybe it could have been the present, but thinking back it's like, yeah, it could take place in the 80s or 90s when you think about it.
Horror films now, just removing the animation fold, is that there's always got to be that little line about why the characters don't have access to their phones.
Right.
Midsummer, it happens in Bodies. Like, it happens in so many films where it's like, which I get. It's you have to have that line because everyone will wipe up use their phones, but it's always funny to me that like there's always just a convenient excuse, which it's just a thing of the Monday. You can't really avoid it. It's just funny to me.
Yeah, I think in the Evil Dead remake, if I remember correctly, I don't know if my mind is just making this up, but I think they put their cell phones away because they're trying to like help one of them recover and don't want distractions or something.
Evil Dead remake is weird.
Yeah, I actually love it.
I don't hate it. I just find it so weird. Like, it's so bloody. Not in a bad way, but it's such a weird film compared to like the original vibes of Evil Dead. It's such an interesting remake. To be fair, I like those remakes more that are different rather than like the carbon copy remakes you get.
Like Psycho. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was cool that with the Evil Dead remake, they leaned in more into the horror tone, because the original first movie was horror, but it had some like really bad acting, so I think they stepped it up for the remake in that department, and then
Army of Darkness.
Dead 2 is horror comedy, and then Army of Darkness is just straight up comedy, which was kind of annoying to me because I wanted more horror, and I felt like Evil Dead 2 was a perfect balance of the two, anyway. But yeah, point being, I love the timeless and spooky vibe of Spooky Jack. And so they investigate like these empty rooms in the house and like these crevices, like they're like cracks in the walls and stuff, and one of the first things they see is a leprechaun, and it's voiced by none other than Warwick Davis, who played Leprechaun in the Leprechaun movies.
So happy. I was so happy. Like, the Leprechaun horror films are shit.
Yeah.
But they're the good
but
they're,
that's the
like,
good shit.
Like, the fact that, like, the fourth one is just called Leprechaun in Space. And also, the third one in Las Vegas is mental. It's sad that the worst one is just the boring WWE made one in 2014. But yeah, I have a lot of love for the Warwick Davis Leprechauns, and it was nice that, like, while he couldn't play the Leprechaun in Leprechaun Returns a couple years ago, he still got the voice one here. It was, that was cool to see.
Yeah, it was like nostalgia for the adults in the audience. Like the kids would just have no idea. Yeah, that's another weird thing. Like, just a moment ago, I was praising how the Evil Dead remake leaned in more on the serious horror vibe, but like for that Leprechaun attempted reboot with that wrestler, it just felt wrong and bland and boring. It's like, what the hell even is this?
Well, because they missed what made Leprechaun good, because what made it good was how campy it was.
Yeah.
Like, like, it's one of those things where it's like, I'm sorry, but the serious just, like, no matter how serious Leprechaun gets, it couldn't really compete with, like, the seriousness of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, or, like, in the mid-2000s, Hostel or Saw. And, like, so its only selling point was his campiness. But yeah, in this film, it was just cool to see Warwick Davis and them. Obviously, it's loads of Leprechaun tropes, which is funny, but it was just enjoyable to see him on screen.
Yeah, and one of the kids is like, "Do you want some cereal?" And it's like this weird, like, Lucky Charms reference, and he's like, "That is offensive," and it's just a weird stereotype sort of thing.
Yeah, it's for obviously for the contrast, as we got Leprechaun, and they turn around from there's Bigfoot, which, like, how does Bigfoot hide in this house? He's literally Bigfoot. He's like 9 feet tall.
Yeah, they really question like how they didn't see him before, and it's kind of like that Emperor's New Groove thing where it's like, yeah, it doesn't really make sense, but just Go for it. And he's even voiced by Patrick Warburton here.
First of all, I love Patrick Warburton in anything he's in. I did like the fun joke about how Bigfoot would sell like photos of himself to like people to get money to like pay for food while he was in hiding. I enjoyed that as a little wrinkle to obviously all the Bigfoot sightings people talk about in like the Midwest. Is that where they say they see Bigfoot? I don't know about American geography. I don't know where Bigfoot hangs out, but
yeah, probably like Midwest or Pacific Northwest, like somewhere in the woods, you know.
But it was nice to like get a little reference to that.
Yeah, and he and the Leprechaun feel like a duo. Definitely, it's like he got the little mythical creature and the big mythical creature, so nice contrast and dynamic duo, so to speak. Like even go ahead.
It's very much the thing of the gentle giant, and then the leprechaun is more aggressive. It's a classic comedy duo, but it always kind of works.
Yeah, and I like the design for Bigfoot. It's like from far away you would think he has like one big eye, but if you look closely, he has like two little eyes. He's got like some fangs and a nice smile. He looks like he has claws, but they look like, you know, they're so covered in hair that it's almost like he has hair fingers, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it was cool. Obviously, like, there's been so many different designs of Bigfoot and a lot of these creatures over the years that it was very interesting the type of designs they chose. And for the most part, I think the designs were really dynamic. Like, I liked how, obviously, they couldn't do the full Leprechaun in the films, because I imagine that's copyright, but they took elements of that and added their own spin on it to make it more child friendly, which is completely fair, and it looked really good. And yeah, the Bigfoot looks really cool. Like it looks menacing, which just adds to the gentle giant contrast. So yeah, the designs, it was nice to see a different animation style. I don't complain as much like other people do about how animation doesn't look good in current day, but it was nice seeing this, which was quite a different animation style than most modern days. Like it wasn't trying to look polished. It was like allowing characters to happen, which looked quite good.
Yeah, I appreciated that as well. And so Bigfoot and Leprechaun explain that they're hiding from the boogeyman, and again, like leading the kids to believe that the boogeyman is like a villain or something, and they're like, no, we're just playing hide and seek.
And then the boogeyman eventually finds them, and you think it's going to be a big thing where the kids see this, like obviously designed to be quite scary boogeyman, but boogeyman actually gets scared by Ben. He just like kind of screams and like hides behind Bigfoot, and this is when we get the whole and Bigfoot and Leprechaun get angry at the kids for scaring boogeyman, which is quite a fun contrast to obviously the spookiness of the boogeyman himself, which was nice.
Yeah, what'd you think of the design for the boogeyman?
Well, it was interesting, right? Because my only exposure to Boogeyman is the wrestler, the Boogeyman, which looked weird. But this guy, I liked it because, in a way, it accentuated his shine. It's like he didn't look particularly menacing in a way. Like he did, like there was definitely an aura to him. But the more I saw the character, it felt he very clearly wasn't like a villain scary, which was quite nice. I enjoyed like the red and the black color contrast on him. Like the design of it was really cool. It was the art style of this movie is really really cool. It's very unique. It definitely added to the spooky vibes of the movie. What about you? What did you think of it?
Yeah, I really liked the design. Like the boogeyman even has like this pointy hat that kind of reminds me of like. I heard people say it reminded them of like a witch, but it actually reminded me of like the scarecrow from like in Wizard of Oz. And I don't know, I feel like pointy dark hats are like a nice touch for either spooky stuff or I guess just fantasy role playing things. I guess. So I liked it. And I also find it funny how during all this noise that they're making, all these discoveries, like, because they're doing this at night, like the parents are just heavily asleep just upstairs. It's like, how are they not hearing all this?
Yeah, it's weird, right? There's lots of weird things to keep the parents out of the house. Like in the scene during the day that we get later in the movie, it's like, oh, the mum's taking the dad to a dentist appointment, but they're not there. It's the one thing in the movie where, like, obviously, if they couldn't have the kids living alone, because then they would need the whole concept, then they would need to change the concept of the film or whatever. But yeah, the parents felt very much like barriers to the plot almost, where they just had to find excuses to get them out of the way to continue the plot, which is fine. It's because they're not the important part of the film, but I noticed it too. It was very noticeable for me.
Yeah, sometimes parents are kind of useless in movies or stories, rather, and so it can be tough to find something for them to do sometimes. But like the kids are, this is targeted toward a younger audience, so it's like I guess they want to focus more on the kids and these monsters, these mythical creatures, and like they keep asking what they're doing here in the house, and they sort of dodge the question for a bit, but once they finally answer, like, their reasons for being in the house is kind of an interesting revelation.
Yeah, it's kind of, yeah, it's a weird thing. So we find out that basically there's we find out about this creature which I've never heard of, but we find out about Spooky Jack, which is an evil, like, kind of jack-o'-lantern evil thing. Like, it's got a pumpkin head with flaming eyes and stuff, and every Halloween it comes to collect, like, it gets these creatures, well, November 1st after Halloween, and take these creatures back to where they came from. But these mythical creatures don't want to go back. They like living in the human world. So they've been hiding out in this house for like 15, 20 years or something, they said. And we basically find out, oh, it's nearly time for Spooky Jack to come again. And they basically want the kids helping, hiding from Spooky Jack to be able to stay in the human world and not go back to from whence they came.
Yeah, like, Spooky Jack is kind of terrifying. Like, I mean, I know he shows up later, but like, he's gigantic, and he can, I guess, grow to gigantic size and be bigger than the house. And I didn't like realize it until later because he was like so menacing, and they do like some audio tricks with the voice, but they got Tom Holland to voice Spooky Jack, and it was like kind of surprising.
It was so I like was hanging out in the theater after watching it, just talking to my friends, and then I saw Tom Holland's name come up, and I was like, "Oh, did he voice like the Boogeyman or something?" And I didn't notice it, and then I found out, or my friend told me he voiced Spooky Jack, and I was like, "Damn!" I was so shocked because I like I said, I've always viewed Tom Holland as like the nice boy, the little meek boy. Like in Spider-Man, he's quite not reserved, but he's quite nice, or yeah, beta, I guess, not in a bad way, but he's not an elf. I love the color orange and blue as a combo, and like, yeah, the flaming pumpkin with like the blue robes he's kind of got on makes Spooky Jack terrifying, and the effects on like the flaming eyes and the flaming pumpkin that is his head later on is amazing. So yeah, I was a bit confused when we started hearing about Spooky Jack, but I can't complain. His design was amazing, and the final confrontation we get from later on is also really cool. So, after this, we get them preparing to go against Spooky Jack. How did you like how they prepared for trying to hide the mythical creatures?
Yeah, what they were basically doing was they have like this basement in the house, and it's a very spacious basement, but they discover it has like a passage to like these tunnels that go under the town, and in my head I'm thinking, what the hell are all these tunnels doing here? What is this, the Goonies? But they try hiding the creatures in the tunnel. Spooky Jack, it's kind of ambiguous how Spooky Jack tries looking for these creatures, but I guess he like tries tracking them, like going town to town. And over here he knocks on the door, and when we actually first see him, he's in the form of some kid trick-or-treater who looks like he has a pumpkin head that looks like it's made of a piñata or something. It's like a little disguise, supposed to be unassuming, and Spooky Jack in this kid form is like, hi, I'm looking for my friends, and, you know, listing off, like, Leprechaun, Bigfoot, and Boogeyman, and the human kids aren't buying it, because it's like, why would this kid be friends with, like, these other, they have already been told about Spooky Jack and what he can do, and so they try to be like, we don't know what you're talking about, and then Spooky Jack is like, funny, you don't seem at all surprised by me, as if you were expecting me. And this is like when they're like, oh shoot, the cover's blown, and it's like, he can tell that we're lying right now, type of thing.
I just like we saw none of the kids in the film in Fortnite costumes. I was worried. A skeleton, a ghost, you know, very, very normal costumes. And I did quite enjoy Ben dressed as Frankenstein though, just because I don't know, I always think Frankenstein is a cool design.
Yeah, and they don't like make a Frankenstein's monster correction joke, surprisingly. I guess because they figure it's sort of a played out joke.
More powerful to not make the joke now than make it, but yeah, they try and make a barrier on the door once Spooky Jack finds out, and then this is when we get the scene of Spooky Jack basically growing inside and revealing his true form, which is probably the best animated scene in the movie for me, because it looks so cool seeing him in all his terrifying glory.
Yeah, and just the voice echoing, very creepy. And of course the parents aren't home, so they don't know what's going on. And then we get a cut, you know, Bigfoot, Leprechaun, and Boogeyman in the tunnels, and like they can hear the commotion behind them, like far away in the house, but they're trying to like go onward through the tunnels, but sort of questioning each other, like, should we actually go back and help them? And one of them's like, no, like, they did this so we could be free, and they're like, yeah, but they're kids. And so, you know, just having this moral dilemma, and luckily they do come across some other mythical creatures who are also hiding out in this tunnel, so it's like they have a bit more reinforcements.
Mythical. One of them was a little questionable. Why was there a spaghetti monster there?
Yeah.
Like, we get some normal ones, some pixies, some elves and stuff, but then like there's just straight up a spaghetti monster there, and I'm like, it looks cool, but I'm confused. During the transformation, we also get to see Tracy looking out their window and seeing the growth of Jack, and so that's how they get to go and help in the final act, because they see this happening. We kind of have all characters plus the new ones we just met converging on the final act. What do you think of the new mythical creatures we met?
One of them I would say was also questionable, because it looked like a baseball with wings, and so it was essentially a baseball bat. And
I didn't get that joke. I just, oh my, I was like, is it just meant to be a golden snitch, but it's trademarked? No, it was a, okay, nah, this film's 5 stars for that joke alone. I can't, that's amazing.
Yeah. So yeah, like some of these are questionable. There is like some creature who's made of corn and looks like they're from some harvest festival, and kind of looks like a costume. Like it's kind of interesting how like the animation makes it look like it could be a costume, but it's actually like how the creature looks.
See, for me, it just looked like a a really niche reference here is corn guy kind of looked like almost like it was from Plants vs Zombies. Like it looked like a giant scarecrow. Well, not a giant scarecrow, a scarecrow, but just made of corn. And it was a weird design, but I kind of liked it. And they clearly have each character have like something they can do later on in the finale when they all team up to take down Jack, and it's a cool little team up moment where they decide to go help the kids.
Yeah, like Jack tries spitting flames at that corn person, but ends up like making them pop popcorn, which he can then like shoot at Spooky Jack. And this is when Jack is like, good thing that popcorn doesn't have butter on it. And everyone's like, wait, why would he say that? And so it turns out that butter is his only weakness, which was a really weird revelation. What did you think of this?
I didn't get this. I don't know if I just have a lack of knowledge of pumpkins, but like, I mean, I guess butter would kind of like kill a fire because it's like wet, but also like, is buttered pumpkins a bad thing? I don't know. It was weird. So yeah, the Yeti ends up getting this vat of butter, like from the house, like gets all the butter he can, and then with the kids, they kind of try and throw it at for Jack, and to help keep Jack still, you have the spaghetti monster kind of use spaghetti to tie up Jack's feet. The leprechaun throws a pot of gold at Jack, and then and it's everyone does something. The only thing I didn't get is what the boogeyman did. I didn't really understand how that related to the boogeyman. Do you have any idea?
Yeah, the boogeyman was kind of tough to figure out, but it's weird because like they kept cutting away while the boogeyman was doing its thing. But I think the implication was like because the boogeyman would like put his hand to his nose, and I think the implication is that he would be shooting bogeys, like boogers, at Spooky Jack, and it'd be so disgusting. Hence why the kids are like wincing and cringing and looking away when that happens. And this film is so well animated that I'm really glad that they cut away from it and didn't actually show the boogers, you know?
Yeah, it was. We didn't get that gross out humor, but yeah, they use those to take down Jack, and it allows Yeti and the kids to basically get the butter on him, and he starts melting.
Yeah.
Which was weird, but you know, I guess they're safe for another year, or is he dead permanently? I don't know. But now they have more friends to live with, because now we find out the spaghetti monster, the baseball bat, and the corn harvest dude are all living with them in the house now.
Yeah, and we also forgot to mention that the spaghetti thing and the Yeti, like, they're a couple and they have a child named Spaghetti. Sort of a combination of the two.
It's like Bigfoot, but instead of hair, it's spaghetti, and it's cursed. It's cursed imagery.
Yeah, and I also like how the Yeti is voiced by Ice Cube. So like when the kids are like asking if he's like where they need him to be during the fight, they're like, "Are we there, Yeti?" And so it feels kind of like a reference to "Are We There Yet?" You know, the Ice Cube movie / show.
I mean, this use of a rapper was better than when Busta Rhymes was in Halloween Resurrections. Yeah. So I'll take it. I'll take this.
Yeah, it's like trick or treat, mother effer in that movie. That's what happens, right? It's been forever since I've seen.
Yeah, no, and he starts doing karate at Mike. It was weird. Halloween Resurrection's a weird movie.
Yeah, probably the worst Halloween movie, like in that series, rather.
Yeah, probably. And I mean, it wouldn't be a DreamWorks film if we didn't end with a pop song dance number. What did you think of this finale to the film?
Like after they've defeated Spooky Jack, it cuts to like this woman who's just like standing outside the house and has just witnessed everything and is in shock, and they're like, "Who are you?" And she's like, "The census taker. I'm supposed to like get a survey." And so like she's in shock and not really sure she saw what she just saw, and then she's like, "I'll come back later, I guess." I thought that was a funny little gag. But yeah, this pop song like dance number, with all the creatures dancing in the house, and then the parents coming back, and the kids are like kind of taken off guard, like kind of worried, and then the parents are like, "Oh, that's right, today is Halloween. You're throwing a Halloween party without asking us?" And they're like, "Oh, well, are we in trouble?" And then they're like, "That depends. Are we allowed to dance?" And so the parents start like doing cringy, like outdated dance moves, like the robot and stuff.
Dad does a move called the Magic Wand, and I've never seen that before. So maybe it's either so old that even I don't know about it, or it's just a completely made up thing for this film. But it did look cringy, so I'll give it that.
Yeah, and what'd you think of the song choice that they used for this?
I mean, you can't go wrong with Monster Mash. Like, I feel like it's better than using Thriller. You can't go wrong with Monster Mash. It's a great song, and I'm kind of surprised that they kind of went with the original, because you'd expect DreamWorks to do a poppy cover of it. But yeah, I was pleasantly surprised by this, because I have very bad knowledge of current pop music, so I was happy to do the mash. Yes, the Monster Mash.
It did the mash. I think that's how it goes, right?
Yeah, it was a graveyard smash. The Monster Mash. Yeah, it's a great little song.
Yeah, it kind of gave me like a little member berry to this obscure 2D animated movie that I think was called Monster Mash and had the song in it, possibly. But yeah, like this was like, I feel like if this was one of those Trolls movies, they would have done like a dubstep cover of this or something, which I'm glad they did not do.
The Trolls films are just no. I never need to see them.
Yeah, like I think I've only seen the first one, and I barely remember. I only remember like Pocketful of Sunshine in My Pocket was in that movie for some reason. Like that's the only thing I remember. And I'm like, why did I watch this movie? I didn't need to.
We're getting a third one next year.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, so what did you think of the movie?
Well, I guess we'll go into final thoughts and scores out of 10 units of measurement, but yeah, I'm not used to going first, but I guess I'll go.
Sorry, I go first.
Okay, yeah, like if you want to go first, you can go first.
Yeah, we'll keep your format. I just come in here and break all the rules. No, I really enjoyed this film, as I said, I like the dark art style. For me, the only issue is it didn't hit the very top DreamWorks films where it has a very powerful emotional message, but I still think this film was really fun, so I'm going to give it 7 out of 10 baseball bats.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of with you there. Like, it doesn't have a heartwarming message. It's kind of just, you watch it for the vibes, I guess. I can't remember if I've ever scored all of the Hotel Transylvania movies, but I feel like this has some more uniqueness to it to separate it from those, so it was really refreshing. So I think I'd give this 7.75 sticks of butter out of 10. Yeah, it's good for at least one watch. Maybe people could like make it a Halloween tradition if they want. I think there are definitely some better spooky animated movies, but this is all right.
It's better than Boss Baby, but like it's not one I think I would choose or call my favorites, especially from DreamWorks. But yeah, it was decent. I hope this continues a upward trend from DreamWorks, especially looking ahead to like Kung Fu Panda 4 and a potential fifth Shrek movie, which could be in the works. but that's been a rumor forever, so who knows?
Yeah, it could be in the DreamWorks, you might say.
Oh, hey!
Yeah, I know, that was
Give
terrible.
me over the hedge too. Give me over the hedge too. I demand it.
Oh, you're really hedging your bets for that one. All right, so before we go, and this is a segment I've decided to add for these spooky season episodes. We're gonna each say what our recommendations are for spooky season. So it could be something that that's spooky that we enjoy, and it could be like something that's been around for a while and something new. Like you could say of like a few different things if you'd like. I didn't really structure this. I didn't put a number limit on it, so it'll just like whatever comes to mind, I guess. So, Callum, what are your spooky season recommendations for the listeners?
I'm not sure if people in the US can still watch it, but in the UK it only came out recently, so I saw Bodies, Bodies, Bodies a couple of days ago, and I loved it. Obviously, it's a new film out, so I will not spoil, but it's a very great at creating atmosphere and tension. And yeah, it's a fun movie, and it's like only 90 minutes, which is great. You're not in the cinema for like 2.5 hours for once.
Yeah.
Staying recent, I love Midsummer. I always find cults really interesting, and Midsummer's such a emotionally impactful horror movie, in my opinion. And then going on the completely opposite end, I do like shit horror movies. So watch Jason X. It's Jason in space, killing people. It's so stupid. I love it. There we go. That's 3 films.
Nice. Like looking up Bodies, 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 it's an A24 movie, and you know they have some interesting movies. So yeah, I don't know if this movie will be for everyone. Yeah, I actually don't know much about it. So.
It's a 15 here, which I guess is an R in America. You know.
Yeah, for my recs, one of the things I watched recently was a Netflix miniseries called Lost Ollie. I watched this with my friend Haley, and it's based on a children's book, I think, and it's kind of like Toy Story, but it's live action. But the toys are like, I think they might be a mix of 3D animated and stop motion, but it really works. It's very heartwarming, and it gets emotional. There's some twists and turns. Maybe not for like the younger children, maybe middle school at the earliest, I would say, because there are like some sort of frightening scenes and sound effects and stuff. So I guess you could kind of consider that somewhat spooky. It does feel like very autumn in places, I would say. I'd also recommend the Chucky TV show if people haven't watched it already. I guess the Child's Play franchise in general, because like you'd be kind of confused watching the TV show without having watched all the films, because it really is a continuation of everything. It's just like so fun, and just like it's probably my favorite slasher franchise, I would say.
Chucky's amazing. Like for me, I love how you have like Chucky's Play 1 and 2, which is so horror filled. Then you have the comedy. Then you have Curse and Cult, which are back to the horror films. I haven't had a chance to watch the TV show yet, but I really need to, because yeah, I'm a big fan of Chucky, especially like the most recent film, Cult, where they're in the sanatorium.
Yeah, because you said cults interest you, right?
Yeah, I really enjoyed Cult of Chucky. Cult of Chucky is a great one, and so are most of the others, apart from the one that's where he has Glenn. I forgot what it's called. Is that
Seed of Chucky?
Yes, that's what. Yes, Seed of Chucky. But apart from the Seed of Chucky, that's one I'm not massively a fan of. But you know.
Yeah, same. Yeah, my friend Greg, who's been on the show before on some episodes, he recently got through the movies, and I was kind of surprised that he wasn't that into Curse and Cult, because like as he was going through the series, he was loving the quippiness of Chucky, and so he really enjoyed Seed of Chucky and the weird comedy in that. And then he found Curse kind of boring, I guess, and then Cult, like, some of the quips were back, but it still felt like kind of serious, which I guess he wasn't as into compared to like the more comedic stuff. So it was an interesting viewpoint that I never really considered. But like for me, Curse and Cult are probably my favorites of the films.
Curse is a weird one because it does have that kind of annoying trope of adding some random backstory, which kind of doesn't make sense to the film in Curse, but overall, I think it's a pretty good movie.
Yeah, the backstory, I actually felt like it contextualized a line in Seed of Chucky better, where Chucky's like, nobody leaves me. Like, it kind of adds to that in a way. There's like something in there that I felt like was potentially a continuity error that I think the TV show may have fixed, but since you haven't gotten to it, I won't say more. But yeah, Chucky season 2 comes out soon. I think on October 5th is when it's premiering over here. So yeah, it's and I'm just glad that this franchise is still going and still strong, and like the creator's still involved. So that's always nice. Well, if done right, you know. Also recommend Coraline and Monster House. Like, why not? We mentioned those earlier, and those are like, I think, big classics for us, I guess. Yeah, that's the Rex for spooky season for this time around, and looking forward to seeing what more people say on this show, and I'll come up with more as well. Callum, thanks for being on this episode, and yeah, I'm like, we're like almost done, and I'm just like losing my words, I guess, like forgetting how to wrap up the show, you know.
It's fine. It was fun. I always love talking horror films, and it was a pleasure to review this spooky film with Spooky Jack, with you, Spooky Steven. It was a fun review.
And you don't have anything to plug, do you? Like social?
No. I mean, I'm on Twitter at CallumH2000. I don't tweet much, but if you want to follow me, you're welcome to, I guess. I might tweet eventually. Who knows?
Okay, yeah, just keeping everyone in suspense.
The one day I decide to tweet.
Yeah, I guess that'll do it. As for my plugs, you can email this show at delayedreplaypodcast@gmail.com. Let us know your thoughts on spaghetti recipes, maybe. Yeah, I don't know. And
what is your favorite type of spaghetti?
Yeah, cooked or uncooked? Like, do you prefer to bite into the solid pasta, like with dry pasta? Like, what's your method? But yeah, and people can also find my fantasy horror comedy novel, Lemons in Like Rain. I guess I'd include that as a rec as well, because why not? It's spooky, it's got werewolves, vampire. The follow-up book, Trespassing Through the Visages, will be out sometime soon. More news on that when there is more news. Go to StevenShinder.com. You can follow me at Steven Shinder on Instagram and Twitter, Steven Shinder Storytelling on Facebook. And you can find me with my dad on a podcast/vlog called Yesshift, where we talk about the band Yes and its members, and even interviewed people. Got a couple interesting interviews coming up. I think soon, as of when this comes out. There's one with Annie Haslam and another with Jeff Berlin coming up. So, yeah, people who've worked with Yes members, like great musicians in their own right. And yeah, you can find that on Facebook, YouTube, various podcasting platforms, and I'll include the links in the show notes as usual. And yeah, I think that's everything. And the next episode will be about a video game that came out last year in this universe, but comes out in in mid to late October in that other universe. It's called Gotham Knights. So,
oh, I'm so excited! I'm so excited for Gotham Knights.
Yeah, I mean, the whole Gotham aesthetic is very spooky, so it's kind of fitting, you know.
Yeah. franchise is one of the best written video game franchises I think there is. So, and it's got very spooky vibes. Those scarecrow scenes in the first game terrified me as a child.
Oh, in Arkham Asylum?
Yeah.
Yeah, come to think of it, Spooky Jack's whole, like, vibe kind of reminded me of, like, those scarecrow scenes in that game. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. But yeah, that's a good episode. I shall definitely check it out. When it's out.
Alright, nice. And yeah, I guess that's everything. And without further delay, have a good day.